It's time for
DodgerHeads.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birds of party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Bruce Kuntz, here to talk what was a baseball game, Bruce, and turned into far more than that. I know you said right before he hopped on, you're fired up for this one. Lots of hit-by pitches. The bench is clear. Dave Roberts screaming at old man Mike Shildt, I'm going to beat your bleep, for everybody to see. Shohei Ohtani 100 miles an hour to the back. So, yes, the Dodgers lost, Bruce, but we got far bigger things to talk about. Where are you at emotionally? Why are you fired up right now?
Oh, I'm angry. Hitting Ohtani up high there, that crossed the boundary. The one thing I thought as he stepped to the plate with the tying run in the on-deck circle, the only way they would even dare throw at Ohtani there is if Suarez fell behind 3-0 and they just figured he's on already basically anyway. I'm the first person that it ticks me off when people assume that hit by pitches were intentional when they were clearly not, based on game situations. So this is like, I want to make sure that it's clear. I'm the first person. I do not jump to conclusions on these things. And that one was obvious, and they hit him up high. So that crossed the boundary of retribution. They hit him up in the shoulder, and that's not all right.
Yeah, and on a 3-0 count with Miguel Rojas. So they're basically conceding the at-bat already. It's 3-0. You're not going to give in to Shohei Ohtani. And so Suarez, to your point, like, throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball that could have been aimed somewhere around his hip. Instead, it hits him a lot closer to the shoulders and head than it does to his hip. And, you know, if not for Shohei Ohtani basically waving the dugout away, I mean, Kershaw was halfway over the rail. Glasnow and Kasperius, from what we could see, those guys were ready to come out. I mean, it was Bush League, to say the least. And I want to be clear. If I'm the Padres, I understand the frustration with Fernando Tatis getting hit again and feeling like, you know, the whole little brother thing, but just feeling like, well, now what? We're just supposed to take the last hit by pitch of this series, and that's going to be that. And yet, to your point, you look at the situation. Jack Little, who is making his major league debut, is the guy on the mound. Like, there is nothing situationally about when and where Tatis got hit that justifies believing that it was intentional. And yet, again, we talked on our show a couple nights ago when this all started, a lot of major leaguers would tell you, intentional or not intentional, we're going to get one back. And I think, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, what you are saying is hitting Shohei Ohtani in and of itself is not an outrageous, like, I mean, it's going to sound bad because it's Ohtani, but like, if he would have taken a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to the quad or something like that, we're not having as fired up a conversation. Is that what you're saying? It's not that he got hit. It's how and when and where they hit him.
100%. I went into the bottom of the ninth fully expecting a Dodger was getting hit after the way that top of the ninth went. And like you said, it's the culture of the game. I don't blame the Padres for being fired up. Exactly like you said, Jack Little in the game. I don't think that the Padres had a reason to believe that was intentional. I certainly don't. Hitting Tatis, none of that was intentional looking. But when there've already been this many hit by pitches in the series, Tatis has already been hit up in that hand area already too. So that was the kind of thing where the Padre dugout was saying, at least get yourselves under control. If you're not throwing at us, if you're throwing at us, like, get it under control, because you could have just hurt our guy and knocked him out for a couple months. And I don't blame them for being mad about that. It's completely within the culture of the game to then go in the bottom of the ninth and hit somebody. So what my worry is that if it went 2 outs, nobody on base, I was fully convinced they were going to throw out Pages.
I tweeted, Pages better go up with catcher's gear, because he started this whole thing and he was going to be up there right in the middle of it. He somehow dodged the bullet.
Yeah, he was within the crosshairs. But when the Dodgers got a rally going and then again, when they fell behind 3-0, that's the only way in that situation that it makes any sense to say that that was intentional, and it absolutely was 100% intentional. You saw Karros on the broadcast went immediately to that.
Yeah.
I think everybody who had their finger on the pulse, as soon as it went 3-0, it was like, uh-oh, for this next pitch. And throwing up high, if they, like you said, if they hit him in the lower leg, if they hit him even between the numbers, just don't throw up high. And that ball came out high. Shohei actually, when he was jumping out, kind of brought his shoulder up a little bit. Like that was going for the ear hole almost. And that's where it's absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am curious your thoughts on the reaction from the Dodger dugout, because look, Shohei Ohtani, he's a gentleman. He's trying to diffuse the situation. He's waving guys away. Yeah. What was your thoughts on that situation that the Dodgers, again, I am not criticizing the Dodgers. If Ohtani's the guy who gets hit, I think he sort of gets to make the call about if he wants this thing to go sideways or not. That's my view. But what did you think about the Dodgers kind of allowing that to pass to some degree and keeping it moving?
I don't mind it because it's Shohei's preference. I think what it looked like to me is that while he was still in the dugout, Shohei went around and said, if they throw at me, I don't want the benches clearing. Stay here. They earned it, is my guess, is what he was thinking. Like that Tatis got hit. The Dodgers were going to get hit, and I think both dugouts understood that. So Shohei just wanted, I think, the team to stay focused on trying to make a comeback, which that's Shohei Ohtani. So I have no problem with it because it looked to me like that Shohei had already primed the dugout to say, don't come running out with your hair on fire. If I get hit, we put ourselves in this spot. And the dugout was still pissed. That's what kind of makes me think that is Kershaw was already stepping over the rail. Glasnow was letting him hear it. And I tweeted that the restraint they showed, I would not have. If I was in that dugout, I would have been over the railing and running before Shohei had a chance to wave it back. So I think that it looks to me like Shohei told them to stay there even before he got hit, and he just wanted to focus on a comeback. So I have no problem there.
Yeah. Before we go back to the Dave Roberts, Mike Shildt, because I want to get there, like, do you think Ohtani waving that off allows this to die? Like, the Dodgers and Padres obviously are going to play each other a number of times the rest of the season. Do you feel like everybody leaves this series feeling like, okay, they hit Ohtani, we hit Tatis, Shohei waved it off, there was no fight? Like, do you feel like this is something that carries over, or do you think that it's run its course?
No, I think that this is going to be something the rest of the year and beyond. These are the kind of relationships that it's not brand new for these two teams to have bad blood, and these players have bad blood with each other. And simply put, I've never seen, like, this series is as angry and evil as I've ever seen Dave Roberts look. I think his relationship with Mike Shildt is terrible, just based on what we saw there. The main thing is, I think with most teams in situations like this, Dave Roberts is such a good guy that he'll find a way to square it away, keep things focused on baseball. Because ultimately for the Dodgers, this is the last thing that they want. They want to stay focused on winning. They want to make sure nobody's going to get hurt with hit by pitches. Ohtani getting hit twice intentionally this series is not something the Dodgers want on the ledger. So if they do find a way to put this behind and not have this happen again when these two teams face each other, that'll be why. But I think that things blew over in a way that is not going to be ignorable, and that this will stay in the memories.
Yeah, the moderator points out, good news, Dodgers and Padres don't play again until the middle of August, but they play 6 times in 10 days. So plenty of opportunities for a slipped fastball here to start things all over. Let's go to that moment in the 8th. Tatis gets hit, and Mike Shildt is a raving lunatic in this game. I mean, he just looks like grandpa that missed his meds at some point in the series, because he's just barking at people and screaming. It's like if the pitch came inside, Mike Shildt was just on edge. And, there's jokes that could be made about this is the Padres World Series, and he's bringing in relievers to like close out games and games that maybe it didn't deserve it. And it felt like he was wearing that tension and wearing that stress, and it was getting to him. So Tatis gets hit, and predictably, because we already saw him barking when a pitch even came inside on Tatis earlier, he loses his mind. And he starts sprinting at home plate towards Tatis, but he's barking at Dave Roberts. He's barking at anybody that'll look at him or listen to him. And Dave Roberts is like, F this. And I tweeted initially, I thought Dave, when he had his hands up, was trying to calm things down. I was very wrong. That was a very wrong interpretation of events, because when they showed the replay, Dave was the first guy out of the Dodgers dugout. He went chest to chest with Shildt. And then as he's walking away, later on, I mean, he was circling around and basically saying, I'm going to beat your ass to Mike Shildt. And Shildt never came for it, needless to say. Both managers ended up getting ejected. But to me, and I think our guy Scott, who's in the chat, said this in the comments, like, yes, the Dodgers lost. The Padres made fools of themselves, in my estimation, in this series. Just the way they handled things, the way that Shildt came across. I don't know how anybody who's unbiased watching this doesn't leave thinking, good for Dave Roberts standing up for his guy. And holy smokes, that guy Shildt looks like a guy who it feels, is on the hot seat, or I don't know what, but just looks like he's lost his mind a little bit.
Yeah, and this isn't a new thing for Mike Shildt. The thing that I remember that really set him apart to be this kind of guy in my mind was last year in the division series when stuff was getting thrown at Profar and that whole thing was going on in left field. Obviously, stuff getting thrown out of the stands is not getting condoned. That part was unacceptable. But what I noticed being there, when Shildt came out of the dugout, he walked all the way into left field and he was given gestures. He was screaming at the left field pavilion at the Dodger fans. And it was ridiculous. I've never seen a manager do something like that. And I think that he has carried every bit of bad blood from that moment all the way through here. Shildt hates the Dodgers. Shildt hates Dodger fans. He hates everything that's the color blue. And he just completely loses his composure at the slightest little thing. And I get it. Like when Tatis got hit, if I was him in that dugout, I would have been pissed too. But not the kind of piss where you walk out and you don't even check on your guy and you just immediately start pointing and yelling at the Dodger dugout. Go see if Tatis is okay first,
Yeah. Well, and I think Dave has done this well. Like there's a way as a manager to go out there, to be noticeably pissed off, to make your players feel like I've got your back. We're not going to stand for this. Without, like, again, looking like a total lunatic, without going and trying to initiate something that isn't there. And again, if you want to paint the worst picture possible of the Padres, this is little brother syndrome 101. This is, we've lost 5 of 6 to the Dodgers. We've lost 3 in a row to the Dodgers. My life is on the line. My job is on the line. The headlines are not positive, and it's all getting to me. I mean, that's what it looked like from Mike Shildt. And again, I thought Dave Roberts came out of this from like a PR perspective, like a king, because he's the first guy out of the dugout. He didn't have anybody holding him back, and he circled around and he's like, here I am. I'll find you later. Let's talk. I'm going to beat you. Like all those things. And again, Dave Roberts, happy he's my manager. Happy Mike Shildt is not my manager, just based on this interaction and how it's played out. And we keep talking about culture, and Padres fans hate when I talk about culture, but like, the Padres culture, again, I think bleeds through in this situation. Like the Padres culture is insecure, little brother, like over inflated view of self-importance of yourself, and just the smallest thing they allow to get under their skin and they allow to totally derail them. Whereas you have Shohei Ohtani, who's the greatest, who is the most secure, the most confident. He's like, fine, you hit me, move on. Like, let's play baseball. And the Padres just don't have that in them.
No, absolutely not. I like we've said, I don't ever see Dave Roberts get like this. And I think that's absolutely a reflection of the way that he recognizes how Shildt has acted and how that whole Padres dugout has acted. Things have gotten fiery, and it all started with when Andy Paz, I think, may have overreacted when he got hit at the very beginning of this series. Totally. But and you can embrace that. But with the way that the Padres responded to that and have continued to hold on to that bad blood. I know that the other night when Iglesias got hit up high, clearly unintentional. One of those ones that it was a fastball that rode in and may have been 3 inches off the plate, and his hands were right there as he started to go, got nicked, and immediately Machado was out of the Padre dugout on the warning track yelling. It's that kind of thing when I think this whole series went into a down spiral because the Padres had no situational awareness. And as soon as they were pissed off, they just decided that every little thing was going to send them up the wall. And that's how we got to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the irony is, like, the Padres finally win a game, and it's not going to be the thing that anybody is talking about at all. And Suarez, their closer, is going to be facing a lengthy suspension. I saw somebody point out, and who knows if it gets to this point, but in the 60-game season, Joe Kelly, when he went after Carlos Correa and that whole thing, that was an 8-game suspension for Joe Kelly. So he'll be suspended. I imagine Shildt will be suspended. It wouldn't be crazy. I mean, Dave Roberts maybe facing like a 1-game suspension just for his role in things and physical contact with Shildt. We'll see. But man, it just a wild series and never dull. I mean, that's the thing, right? Never dull. All exciting games, even this one coming down to the very end. We're going to talk about that because there's a lot to get to about Miguel Rojas and Dalton Rushing being the guys taking the biggest at-bats of the game in this one and some decision-making that led to that one. But if you missed the highlights, again, the beanballs continued to come, some intentional, some not intentional, up to some interpretation. But both of us agree. The Ohtani one, 3-0 count, open base at first, clearly intentional and inappropriate in where it hit him. If they hit him in the quad, if they hit him in the butt, fine. Like, you move on. But a fastball that, to your point, he kind of had to jump up and move his shoulder in order to deflect that away from his head. That's scary stuff and not acceptable in Major League Baseball. So let's get to some of these super chats. Fritz says, Show bean twice now. Hitting Show is like tripping a Boy Scout while he's trying to help an old lady cross the street. The Pods play dirty ball. It does, like, you know, that it's the old thing where, like, you've got driving around and somebody's got road rage and they give you the middle finger, and the worst thing you can do is just smile and wave at them to show you how little it impacts you. That was Ohtani. Like, he gets hit and he goes over to the Padres dugout and he's just saying nice things to them. I can't imagine how demoralizing and deflating that must have been. Like, they're all pissed. Like, we're going to fight. Like, let's get this guy. And then Ohtani's coming over and asking, like, hey guys, how are you enjoying the weather? Like, I hope you guys have a great rest of your season. I love it from Ohtani.
And I think he knows what he was doing too. When they showed the clip of Ohtani walking over there, you saw some of the other guys in the Padre dugout kind of start to lean over, like, is he saying something inflammatory? And then they all kind of look like, no, how are we supposed to react to this? And I think Shohei knows what he's doing with that. He's just so focused on the things that matter. And like when we talk about the way that the Padres kind of, once they got angry, they just did not let that go for the entire rest of the series. Shohei's the complete opposite, because he had every reason, I think practically any hitter in Major League history in his shoes in that spot when he gets hit up high, because that's like we've said, that's the real thing that sets it apart. If he got hit in the hip, you can chalk it up to had to happen after Tatis got hit, but hit up high to still not care, to wave his teammates back to the dugout. That's a guy that really just does not want any extra noise, just wants to focus on, let's get to the next batter and try to escape without any injuries, any suspensions, and just focus on winning.
Yeah, 300. Love Shohei's reaction to it. My only worry is that it hit him in the back of his right shoulder. He seemed fine. Like, there's a lot of flesh back there, and so, you know, he might have a bruise. Hopefully, it looked like sort of a glancing blow, not a direct blow, so it seems like he'll be okay.
Do raise a good point, though. That's the pitching shoulder, and this is part of why when we talk about the rehab in the big leagues thing, this is why it doesn't happen, because and obviously pitchers don't hit when they're rehabbing either normally. So this is why it's such a unique situation. I thought that the other night when he got hit in the leg hip area too. That was right after he had pitched, and wondering how that was going to impact his rehab and getting back and just recovery. You know, it doesn't take very much to have a setback for pitchers that are on a regular rehab assignment. If they're feeling soreness or anything, usually teams will shut it down and say, well, retry the rehab in 2 weeks. So you have to hope something like this up in the shoulder, if he was feeling tenderness already, and same thing with the leg. I mean, Shohei's a robot, so I think that he's going to be okay, but it certainly is a good thing to point out and at least be conscious of.
Yeah, Hector, thank you for the massive super chat. We appreciate you. He said Shohei handled the situation calmly and remained in good spirits afterwards. However, knowing he could have been seriously injured, especially if it had struck his head, left me incredibly upset. Hector, you are not alone among Dodgers fans, because I think Shohei Ohtani somehow, as the guy who took the 100-mile-an-hour fastball up near his head, was calmer about it than just about everyone. I joke. I mean, Eric Carroll sounded like he was about to find the quickest way down from the booth to get involved in things. But again, I think it speaks to character and Ohtani's character, not to say it would have been negative reflection if he decided to bark at somebody and let the benches clear out. But kudos to Ohtani, and yet it doesn't make me any less mad, as we've talked about on this show. Parker with the super chat. Older timers probably won't like it, but this stuff's got to go. This should not be part of the game. Hit by pitch should be ejection/suspension. I don't know if you're saying that every hit by pitch should be an ejection and suspension, because they're not all intentional. And the hardest part about ruling on this, to Bruce's point earlier, is it's hard to tell and totally parse out what is intentional and unintentional. Because if you just put this in a vacuum and say, hey, it's been back and forth, the Dodgers got hit last, and then, oh, by the way, 5-0 game, but ninth inning, nobody on base, Tatis gets hit in the arm, you could make a case, man, that seems like the type of thing that looks bad and looks intentional. And yet then you zoom out, and as Dodgers fans, we're going to look at this through the lens that we have as Dodgers fans and say, it's Jack Little. He's not very good. He's making his major league debut. He's pitching in his second inning. Like, what's the point of going after Fernando Tatis? So I think that's the tricky part with this, Bruce, is that some of it seems obvious to us, but obviously it's not airtight. And even the stuff that we're writing off as unintentional, in some ways you could make the case that maybe some of it looked more intentional than we're giving it credit for.
I think the thing that's hard about thinking about weeding this kind of stuff out, and you absolutely do have a point in that, Parker. I think that I agree that a lot of this stuff it doesn't improve the game in the way that it functions. But part of the problem with getting it out is in the evaluation process of whether a hit by pitch is intentional or not intentional. That stuff is all ingrained in the culture that makes this whole kind of thing happen. So you can't really have one without the other. And it's just, it already is better than it used to be. I think this kind of stuff, like you don't see guys getting thrown at nearly as much as used to be, because I think, simply put, most teams are more focused on winning than they used to be, more willing to put up with extracurricular stuff like this than I think they are now, especially a team like the Dodgers. This kind of stuff almost never happens. And that speaks to the Padres' point in this of, if you can get Dave Roberts as riled up as he was here, if you can get the whole Dodger team willing to be thrown at people, because I do think that not all the Padre hit by pitches in this series were unintentional. I'll say that. So for the Dodgers to break that comfort zone, you really know the bad blood is real.
Yeah, sorry, I'm laughing over here because I'm on a text thread that just hilarious things being talked about right now, and not necessarily things that can be repeated on the air. We'll just say that. Good time to be. There are Dodgers chats that have to be just absolutely popping off right now. So again, Parker, thank you for the super chat. Let's see. We're going to get to some of the decisions, so I'm trying to sort through the super chats. Tyler with the super chat. Thank you, Tyler. Don't recognize the name, so we appreciate you hopping in. And if this is your first super chat, thank you so much. He said, living in San Diego, their whole revival is built on grievances. When things aren't going well and better teams are beating them, players and many fans here manufacture reasons to feel slighted. This is kind of the insecurity that I was talking about. And they exude it. They exude insecurity. They exude little brother. They exude like constantly feeling like you're the victim and you need to prove yourself and the world's out to get you. When sometimes it's just not. Sometimes you're just a team that's in front of the Dodgers and they're already worrying about the Nationals and they've stopped thinking about you. And yet, again, I can't think of a better word, Bruce, than it feels like a group of a team, an organization that is insecure.
Yeah. And I think you can really tell that from when Andy Pages got hit, the whole start of all of this. I think most people, probably a lot of people, I already said it, people in the Dodger dugout probably thought, hey, that was a bit of an overreaction. There was no definite way to know that they were thrown at him intentionally. If he thought that it was because the Padres saw him relaying signs, whatever it was a pitch to road up and in a situation that didn't call for an intentional hit by pitch. And I think that if you had a more mature dugout on the Padres side, they'd be able to say, hey, that's a 24-year-old who already he plays with that kind of attitude, and he might have overreacted at that one. Dylan Cease wasn't mad. He just looked at him like, I don't know what you're angry about. Give me the ball. Let's move on. If the whole Padre dugout would have been willing to do that, I don't think that we'd be in this place right now. It was their inability to just look at Pages, see a young guy who may have overreacted a bit, but it's not like he charged the mound or anything. He shot a couple daggers through the eyes out at Cease and then walked to first base. It's not that big a deal. If they just moved on at that point, I don't think any of this would have needed to happen.
And I think you make a great point in bringing that one up, because it was Shilt's reaction to that I think really ignited this whole thing. Yeah. Like, again, Dylan Cease handled that one perfectly appropriately. He threw inside. He hit Pages. Pages overreacted. Pages admitted afterwards that he overreacted. The Dodgers basically admitted that Pages overreacted. And Dylan Cease is like, dude, what the heck? Like, move on. And yet Mike Shildt is doing what? He's out there barking and screaming for no reason. He's looking for something to be mad about. He found a bunch of it this series, and again, absolutely went ballistic by the end of this one. Sean wants to know, do you think the Padres are trying to force this rivalry a bit? I understand a couple years ago, now it seems like the Dodgers and Padres are on different levels. We talked about this, like, are the Dodgers and Padres actually rivals? I think where we landed as a group, me, Matt, and Anthony, was that this is a rivalry but the Dodgers and Padres aren't rivals, that the rivals is like an eternal, permanent, forever type thing, and a rivalry is maybe like for these 10 years, these two teams hate each other and don't seem to get along all that well. So I guess I'll just give you the floor. Do you feel like the Padres are trying to force this, and do you think it's a rivalry?
I don't think the Padres or the Dodgers are thinking rivalry. This kind of stuff all boils over from personal relationships. The players know each other. The players know the guys they don't like. The managers know who they don't like. And I think it's all when you're in those dugouts, it's easy for us as fans to talk about rivalries and things. Ultimately, the Padres players, they don't care if the outside baseball world views this as a rivalry. They know that when they play the Dodgers, they don't like the Dodgers. And it's all personal to them. So I don't think that they're consciously thinking that way, but it in effect is what they're doing, because when the Padres play the Dodgers, they absolutely approach the game in a different way. I think this is kind of how they play, but it is a little different when they play the Dodgers, same way that the Dodgers are different when they play the Padres, because this kind of stuff never happens for the Dodgers unless it's this group of Padres with Machado and Tatis at the top, and the way that whole dugout functions. I swear, Mike Shildt, it feels like he's been the Padre manager for 15 years with the way that he fits that group.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks, Sean. Thank you for the super chat. Richard says it's the Padres' lack of discipline and controlling their emotion versus the Dodgers. Beat LA is embedded in their organization. And I agree with the first part, Richard. I think it's just the Padres don't know how to, it's like the classic act like you've been there before. The Padres haven't been there before. So how can they act like they've been there before when the joke keeps getting made? This is their World Series. They're not doing anything to dispel that notion. Like, they're bringing in relievers in games that they're losing. They're like going to their best arms in places. They pulled their starter today after like 5 1/3 when he was dealing. Like, they are treating this like their World Series. They're reacting like everything is the biggest deal in the world. And so it definitely does not help their case. Parker chimes in, by the way, with the super chat again. Nobody can know if it's intentional or unintentional, but a pitcher who throws into a batter's box, especially near the head, shouldn't be on the mound, period. I don't want to harp on this, but Bruce, like, do you think there's a line where if the ball, if you get hit, above the shoulder blades or something like that, then it's just an automatic ejection, no questions asked, intentional, unintentional? Or do we just always have to kind of sift through, was this on purpose or not?
I don't think that you can't really do it, because you'd wind up screwing over teams when both dugouts know that the guy on the mound didn't mean to do that. And it's part of the game, that's why guys have to go up there wearing a batting helmet and they can't go up in a cap anymore, is because it's possible for pitchers to lose control of one and have it go up high. So I think that's where, like, we already talked on this show so far about how this culture, it's already better now than it used to be, but it kind of polices itself. And this series is an example of that. Both dugouts, they knew when they believed that it was intentional, a hit by pitch was intentional. I think even in that 9th inning, I would be surprised if the majority of the Padre dugout thought that that Tatis hit by pitch was intentional. The way that I read it was Shildt running out of the dugout, basically saying, like, the way that this series has gone, how many guys have already been hit. You need to get yourselves under control and make sure you don't hit anybody else. It wasn't that he was running out saying, you threw it to Tatis. He was running out saying, we've gone down this road far enough. You need to know that anybody else gets hit and we're going to care about it.
Yeah, I think it's fair. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the actual game, because in spite of all that, this game got fascinating real fast at the end. Dodgers down 5-0 going into the 9th inning, seemingly no offense the entire night, and yet they mount a rally. Sean Reynolds comes into the game, 6'8", 250-pounder. I don't know if that was coincidence after it looks like a brawl might break out and you throw the guy who looks like a freaking defensive end out there. Who knows? But he goes walk, and a Pages fly ball that it is the very definition of a wall scraper. Tommy Edman singles. An error puts runners on second and third, so it's 5-1. Hyeseong Kim, RBI ground out. It's 5-2. Then the Ohtani hit by pitch. So now all of a sudden we've got the bases loaded, and Miguel Rojas is in the game. Because if you weren't paying super close attention, Dave Roberts waved the white flag an inning prior to the Tatis situation. Miguel Rojas pinch hit for Mookie Betts. Dalton Rushing, who's going to factor into this story very quickly, pinch hit for Will Smith. Kike Hernandez, pinch hit for, was it Freddie Freeman? Who did Kike Hernandez?
Yeah,
for Freddie Freeman. So all of the Dodgers, all of the guys that you want coming up in this situation with the bases loaded in a 5-2 game, they're all out of this. And so, Bacon Tree, Mookie once again reverted to a noodle bat. We'll get to that. But one of the few times Dave punting a game ended up actually working against them in the end. Laura with the super chat. I really wanted us to come back and win for Ohtani. But Bruce, that was hurt by the fact that Dave Roberts made the decision to pull not a couple of his guys, but all of his guys in the 8th inning. And by the time the 9th comes around, it comes back to bite them. What were your thoughts on, was Dave Roberts totally in the wrong to handle things the way he did?
I certainly wouldn't say totally in the wrong. I think this is part of the calculus, and the Dodgers, it's not something that it's something they do often, pulling guys late in games. It's how they get guys like Rojas into the game a little more. It's how they get Mookie and those Freddie, those guys off their feet when they want to be playing every day. So I think it follows the regular formula. 5-0 is a little close to be doing it. I would say 6 runs, you feel a little bit more comfortable in saying this game is over. But ultimately, the Dodgers were looking at it. They said Jack Little's on the mound, and he already didn't look great in his first inning of work. It's 5-0. And even though the Tatis situation hadn't already happened in the top of the 9th, you already knew that there was bad blood everywhere. And I really don't have a problem with saying that this series is almost over. You already clinched the series victory. Get those guys out of there. Get them an extra couple innings off their feet, and try to get out of here without anything potentially going wrong.
Yeah, I think the point about, on one hand, like if the Tatis hit by pitch had already happened, then I'm like, dude, just get I don't need Mookie Betts breaking his wrist. I don't need Freddie Freeman breaking some ribs. I don't need any of that. We weren't quite there yet. So this is tough to me because we're talking position players and we're talking like an inning and a half. It's not like we're subjecting them to some grueling thing like, oh my gosh, how are we going to survive? How is Mookie Betts going to survive another inning and a half? I know they have a game tomorrow. It's 5-0. I know that seems like unlikely for a comeback to happen. To your point about Jack Little, I think is a fair one. I think we're talking about two different things. The decision to throw Jack Little back out there for a second inning, totally fine with me. Yeah. But the decision to pull position players, that's where you lose me. Dave and Bruce and the Dodgers, whoever, because it just doesn't seem that hard to stay in the game. It doesn't seem that physically grueling. And at that point, we're not worried about necessarily getting 100-mile-an-hour fastballs to the ribs. So that's the part that rubs me the wrong way, because then the 5% chance happens and Miguel Rojas is up there and he walks, and then it's Dalton Rushing. And to be fair to Dalton Rushing, he saw 5 pitches. One of them was a strike, and it was a called strike or a swing strike 3 at the end. He should have walked, and this game should have continued. But even then it's Kike Hernandez coming up in the next AB. So I hate that. I hate how it ended that way.
I think it's very fair to be critical of that. And I like I said, I think that 6-0, you'd feel a lot more comfortable with this than 5-0, because 5-0 still feels like, a solo homer and it's a game. Yeah. But I think that my main point is I think it follows the regular formula that they use. It wasn't surprising to me at all. Like when those guys did get pulled, I wasn't sitting there saying, oh, what are they doing? This is still too close a game. I just kind of figured this is the point we're at. The series is already won. It follows the regular script. So I didn't mind it in the moment. And then you can look back and say it burned them for sure, which is absolutely valid. But I think this is just the way they operate. And with no off day before the series starts tomorrow, every bit of rest that those guys can think is helpful.
Yeah. Sorry. We got our situation all messed up there. Yeah. Again, we can agree to disagree. Obviously I respect your opinion. So I don't think there's like a black and white, right and wrong answer here. To me, it's just position players in the 7th or 8th inning, whatever we're talking about. Like, again, I don't have an issue with them not going to like Kirby Yates in the 9th to preserve the five-run deficit. I think offensively, just let these guys stay out there would be my thing. But again, I think 90% of the time it doesn't come back to bite them. And you can make an argument that the part of the reason it did come back to bite them, as Jet Engineer points out, is Rushing got screwed. Like the first 4 pitches he saw were all balls, and he should have walked and the game should have continued. And instead he's in a 2-2 count and he swings right through a fastball. So that's a tough one there. We have Dave Roberts quotes coming here in just a second, but Sean, real quick, Muncie said he thinks the Giants and Dodgers are permanent rivals, but fans are starting to think Padres are bigger rivals. How do you compare the rivalry that players feel versus how fans feel? The one thing I would say, Sean, and we talked about this in our video, is even fans, I don't think they agree, because I think this is broken down by how old you are. Like, people that are my age, I'm in my mid-30s. Like, I despise the Giants because I had to live through the even year crap. I had to live through the Barry Bonds crap. Like, I'm trained as a Dodgers fan to hate the Giants. The Giants gave me tons and tons of reasons to hate them. Now, if you're like my dad's age, you hate the Yankees. Like, I have no real feelings towards the Yankees. Like, I don't like them, but I don't hate them. Now, if you're like 20 and under, you probably despise the Padres because the Giants have mostly been irrelevant for your time as a fan. And so I know the players, how they feel versus how fans feel, but I don't even know if there's a uniform, like how fans feel. I think if there is one uniform thing, Bruce, and maybe this is what makes somebody a rival, I think every Dodgers fan can't stand the Giants. Like, I think that's one thing we can all stack hands on. I think there's some people that hate the Padres a ton, maybe more. Some people that hate the Astros, some people that hate the Yankees. But I think what makes the Giants unique is we all hate the Giants.
And I think it's a good point to talk about how the players feel, because I just went into it. Like with the Padres, I think that's a personal relationship thing. If the entire Padres and Dodgers rosters cleaned house tomorrow, then the people who take over those jerseys probably wouldn't care very much. But as soon as, like, if the Dodgers claim a guy off waivers and the next series is Giants, as soon as they put on the Dodger blue, they're going to feel that animosity because they know that's the historic rivalry. The Dodgers and Giants hate each other, and that transcends personal relationships. So I think that one stands out. We talked about it in that video, like you mentioned, that for me growing up, the Giants, they won those even year championships, but that was when I was still fairly young. And it really took that 2021 season to kindle it for me, that Giants hatred of feeling like, hey, they're on the same level. The Dodgers and Giants are seeing eye to eye, and then you can really feel it. So I think that's a good point about the age, the generation gap. And for some of the younger Dodger fans right now, like kids that are in high school right now and have grown up going to Dodger games, their entire memory is Padres hatred. So I'm sure that stands out to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Some post-game quotes here. Let's start with maybe the most inflammatory of all of them, unsurprisingly, coming from Manny Machado. The Dodgers better, quote, pray that scans on Fernando Tatis's left hand come back negative. Quote, they better put out a candle. That was Manny Machado on this situation, Bruce. X-rays, I believe I saw that X-rays are negative on Tatis. I'm going to clean that up and double check on that. But Manny Machado does not seem to be trying to de-escalate anything here, Bruce.
No, and that's not at all surprising. And that isn't even a dig at Machado to say that, because that quote, well, inflammatory, I think is more understandable than the way that the Padres reacted in that ninth inning. This is where I can admit that if I was in their shoes, I would probably be thinking similar, maybe not giving threats, or at least vaguely veiled threats in the post-game presser. But if Jack Little's fastball that rode up and in did break a wrist or a finger of Tatis's, then I think the Padres would certainly have a reason to be pretty pissed off.
Shildt says they're trying to figure Tatis's injury out. Medical team says it hit him, quote, in a tough spot where there's a lot of bones. X-ray is negative. They will do more imaging tomorrow. That is from Angie Hilbrun. But that's just straight from Mike Shildt. He's getting X-rays right now, but the initial X-ray was negative, was the report. Let's get some Dave Roberts quotes here. Quote, the way I saw it was Jack Little making his major league debut. He's trying to get through the outing. We're trying to get him to finish the game. Obviously, the arm side miss to Iglesias, walks in a run. Then he hits Tatis with an arm side fastball. Obviously, I think anyone knows there was no intent. I think even Mike speaking the other day, talking about intent versus no intent. So I think anyone understands there was no intent then, even by my reaction. I didn't feel good about Tatis, a great player, a great guy, getting hit. I didn't feel good about it. And so as he comes out and he's yelling at me and staring me down, that bothers me. Because to be quite frank, that's the last thing I want. I'm taking starters out of the game, trying to get this game over and get this kid a couple innings. So that's why I took that personal, because I understand the game. I understand it doesn't feel good to get hit. But again, intent versus clearly no intent. Dave went on to add that Ohtani, in his opinion, was absolutely hit on purpose. And that Ohtani's response was that he, quote, didn't want any more drama. Ohtani is fine, by the way, and is expected to pitch on Sunday. That was sort of the summary of Dave Roberts' quotes. And he's picking up on exactly what we talked about, Bruce. This is a conversation about, was it on purpose or was it not on purpose? And these two have the evidence points in different directions, I guess is the safest thing to say. And Dave maybe had calmed down a little bit before he came into this press conference. Otherwise, he might have said some more inflammatory things, but I think he made his point here.
That's extreme for Dave Roberts. I'd say that
Yeah.
one line that stood out to me, I think you said it was because I understand the game. That has subtext of saying that my opposing manager does not. And I think this is as explicit as I've ever seen with Dave Roberts of two managers that absolutely do not like each other. And I 100% agree with Dave Roberts here. It's like I said, that when Jack Little hit Tatis on the hand, and everybody in the ballpark who knows what they're talking about, including should have been the Padres dugout, should know that was not intentional. The Dodgers already pulled their starters. Like Robert said, that they're not trying to start a fight at this point. They're trying to get out of there. And so for that unintentional hit by pitch, I understand frustration from the Padres dugout. I absolutely do. I would be too. But for Shildt's immediately reaction to go charging out of the dugout and yelling and pointing and demonstratively making it Dave Roberts' fault, that part was absolutely I don't blame Dave Roberts for not taking it well.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. I just can't get over this Manny Machado quote. Like, what? The Dodgers better pray that they come back negative. They better put out a candle.
It's awfully explicit.
Unbelievable. And again, it's like you already did the thing. Like, you already acted like it was intentional, right, and you threw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball at Shohei Ohtani's neck. So, like, or else what? Like, what else can you do? Aim higher? Is Robert Suarez going to aim higher next time? If Machado is not already the least popular guy in the league among Dodgers fans, I think it's safe to say he has eclipsed the Houston Astros in that spot, at least in 2025, as we move further and further away. I can't get over it. That's an insane quote.
It's certainly different. Being frustrated, like I said, I don't blame the Padres at all for being frustrated that Tatis got hit and that he could be. We'll find out if he's seriously hurt or not. Just the fact that he could be, I don't blame them at all for being frustrated. But that Tatis or that Machado quote, that's more than frustrated. That's a public threat. That's certainly different.
Yeah, I see some people asking. A quote again. This is from Alden Gonzalez of ESPN. Manny Machado said that the Dodgers better, quote, pray that scans on Fernando Tatis's left hand come back negative. Quote, they better put out a candle. That was the quote from Manny Machado. So I'll let you fill in the blank on the or else ... what belongs after that. Okay, let's get to some more stuff here. I'm sure we'll have more post-game quotes as players speak. So kudos to our team from DodgerBlue.com who are at the stadium getting us quotes and all sorts of real-time information there. Some more things here. Hector was Yamamoto's 9th pitch in what would have been an immaculate inning. Bruce, I saw you tweeting about this. We all were. Middle fastball that would have been a 9-pitch immaculate inning. If for those that aren't familiar, an immaculate inning is if you throw 9 pitches, all strikes, 3 strikeouts in an inning. It is one of the rarest events in Major League Baseball. Yamamoto did it with a 9th pitch middle fastball to Fernando Tatis that he watched and that was inexplicably called a ball. Absolutely the most egregious. I mean, because like even the rushing ones where they were called strikes, they're within a baseball of the corner, right? Like this one was, there's a full baseball between where this pitch landed and any corner of the zone. And that was brutal from the home plate umpire.
Yeah, as egregious of a miss as I've ever seen in a big spot. And that's the kind of thing, the umpire, everybody down there was aware that Yamamoto was 1 pitch from an immaculate inning. And flat out, I think the guy choked. And it certainly is unfortunate because, like you said, an immaculate inning is exceedingly rare, more rare than a no-hitter. And Yamamoto had one. So obviously it's not as big a sin, but I immediately thought of the Armando Galarraga, the blown perfect game where it's not that big a deal, but it's that sort of just absolute kick because the umpire was thinking about the situation more than making the right call. Yeah,
absolutely. Joseph, the offense continues to let Yamamoto down every start. Get this man some run support, one of the best ERAs in the league, and only 6-6. In 15 starts this season, Bruce, this was the 10th time that he exited the game with his team having scored 0 or 1 run in it. The offense failed him, but I'm curious what your thoughts were on Yamamoto and his performance. 6 1/3, 7 hits, 3 earned, no walks, 5 strikeouts, his final line, just 6 whiffs on 50 swings, which is a crazy number. He starts out the game getting crushed. Like the first 6 balls put in play against him were all 300 feet or further. They were hit. Like guys were just seeing dead red. And yet 5 of those 6 resulted in outs. One was the Bogarts home run. He ends up giving some more runs up in the 5th due to some like an infield single, a seeing eye single, and a bloop. And all of a sudden it's gone. But what did you make of his overall performance, even given the fact that the offense didn't help him out?
Yeah, I'm not worried about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but it certainly feels like this last month or so is kind of in a bit of a weird spot compared to where he was at the beginning, where I would have taken him over any pitcher in the National League, potentially including Paul Skeens. He's not looking quite that dominant right now, but I think he'll be okay. The thing, they mentioned it on the broadcast, and I've noticed too, the splitter is just not being thrown very much. And that was such a big pitch to mix up the arsenal, to get in those swing and miss kind of counts, and to get the swing and misses itself with the splitter. So it's kind of odd to me that it seems like he's lost some confidence in throwing the split, because I think that pitch of his is so good. And without that, I think the fastball becomes a little more hittable. So I hope that whatever's going on there, they can get back to the pitch usage that he was using at the start of the year when he was still doing great.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was just a weird start. And like, I mean, how much stock do you put into the like one less day off? He was pitching throughout at his best stretch. He was pitching once a week. They had an off day every single Thursday. That has changed. He's had some really good starts on 5 days rest. He's had some of his worst starts on 5 days rest as well. Do you make anything of that?
It's worth noting. I think like it's not something to ignore, but I also figure that if Yamamoto and the Dodgers didn't believe that he could still be the same caliber of pitcher with that one last day, then they wouldn't be throwing him out there on 5 days rest. So I imagine that it's fine, but obviously you have to acknowledge that since they changed it, it seems like there's a correlation there. So I guess they'll probably have to go to the table and see if they believe that is something that could be impacting him.
Yeah, absolutely. Jedi Engineer says, we all hate the Giants. We'll never forgive the Trastros, and we'll always roll our eyes at the Padres acting like a younger sibling, I think is a perfect summation of that. He also says, anyone think the umpire crew had money on the Padres with FanDuel based on how they were calling games? Look, the Dodgers benefited from some balls and strikes in today's game. I didn't think the umpiring, the rushing one was the most brutal situationally. Like they're going to come back to those. That's literally a 5-4 game with the go-ahead run at second base and the next guy due up. And instead it's a 2-2 count. So like the gap between those two situations, a fresh count and the game-winning run at second versus a 2-2 count and the game-winning run standing on first is monumental when it comes to win probability and run expectancy and all of that. So those were the two most impactful calls, even if the Yamamoto one was the most egregious call. But as much as I hated all of it, Bruce, I'm not a Dodgers fan going to bed tonight saying, man, if only the umpires ... I felt like the Dodgers backed themselves into the holes that they ended up dying in.
It's a really hard conversation to have about the umpiring, because every number that you look at continues to prove that MLB umpires are more accurate than really should be humanly possible when you look at the grand scheme of things. But then on an individual game basis, it feels like it continues to happen where you can look back at multiple calls throughout the course of a game, and especially in big moments like what happened to Rushing, and say kicked calls actively impacted the outcome of this game. And tonight's one of those games, and it's frustrating. So like I said, it's hard to approach this conversation without sounding like I'm just dogging on all MLB umpires. They're insanely good at their jobs, but I cannot wait until we've at least got the challenge system in, because I think that'll do the job of being able to take some of these missed calls that the catcher knows it, the batter knows it, the pitcher knows it, everybody knows it except the umpire, and it'll at least fix those ones. So I am looking forward to the challenge system is my takeaway.
And I'm with you. I will say, like, there's a world where the Dodgers would have gotten to that spot and have no challenges left because it's the last batter of the game. So maybe it doesn't solve all of our problems, but I'm with you. Like, it needs to come the immaculate inning. We definitely get an immaculate inning if the challenge system existed.
And then at least you'd have yourself to blame. Like if you get to that spot, you could say like, well, you used all your challenges already, like tough luck. But in this situation, there's nothing you can do except say the umpire kicked that one.
Yeah. I'm with you. Okay, let's get to just one big picture thing. I do want to mention this kind of ends the 29 game stretch that the Dodgers were playing, in which every single team they played was over 500. and they finished with a 17-12 record. They went into this stretch with a 1-game lead on the Padres and a 1-game lead on the Giants. They come out of it with a 3.5-game lead on the Giants and a 5-game lead on the Padres. They won 6 of 9 series, lost only 2, tied 1, a 4-game series against the Mets. From this point forward, Bruce, they have basically the easiest schedule in Major League Baseball based on opponents' win percentage. Unequivocally, a raging success for the Dodgers to have gotten through this with the pitching staff in the condition that it was with the record that they ended up with.
Yeah. It speaks to the fact this team wins baseball games and they will compete with anybody on any given day. It doesn't matter who's slumping, doesn't matter who's hurt. The Dodgers are going to be able to throw out games like, Justin Robleski has had a couple in this stretch where even on games they're losing, he could go out and just eat 5 innings. They constantly have a revolving door with new guys coming up from AAA to fill innings. And it feels like that at many times on this 29-game gauntlet, as is written in the title, it's felt like this is not the Dodger team that we were promised. This is not the team they were at the start of the year. All those things that you could be worried about. And then you look back at the end and say they still went 17-12 against the toughest part of their schedule in the year. So it's just speaks to the fact that the Dodgers are really good at what they do. And once this team gets fully healthy, once some more of these guys get back on track with like Teoscar Hernandez, we just talked about Yamamoto hasn't been quite as good. Yeah. Once everything starts to fire and everybody gets healthy, then I feel like this secures my confidence in the Dodgers winning the division again for sure.
The Dodgers have built a buffer without without a large chunk of the talent that they have out there. Like they have built this buffer with, I think it's like 1-2 starts from Blake Snell. Like Tyler Glasnow's been MIA. Shohei Ohtani is just now returning. Some of the depth arms like Emmet Sheehan, who we're going to talk about here in a second, is just coming back. Obviously, Mookie Betts is struggling mightily. The bullpen has been a total mess at times. Like in spite of all that, they're still where they are at. And as they get healthier moving forward, you would imagine that gap only widens. So with an easier schedule as well, all those things pointing in the right direction. I do want to talk Emmet Sheehan briefly because he was part of the news today. He was optioned for Jack Little, who ended up hitting Fernando Tatis. Little gets added to the 40-man roster, makes his major league debut today. There were some quotes about Emmet Sheehan. Dave was asked about the decision to send Sheehan down and basically said it came down to the fact that Justin Robleski's a little bit more stretched out, has ability to give them a little bit more length. The Dodgers know they'll need coverage at Coors, and they want Sheehan to keep building up in Oklahoma City. That's from Fabian Ardaya, kind of connecting those dots for us. What was your thoughts on that decision? How surprised were you?
Yeah, it absolutely surprised me because I figured that once they pulled him off the rehab assignment, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, earlier than I thought, I thought that was acknowledging Emmet Sheehan is just too good to stay down there and continue stretching out. And he went 4 innings yesterday, so it's not like that he is like in Shohei Ohtani's place of like 1 inning and needing to stretch out a lot further. So it surprised me. I will say I think it's possible that the reasoning is not what Dave Roberts just said, but it's something he can't really acknowledge in that Emmet Sheehan, obviously, since he's been on the injured list all year, had not been optioned a single time. Robleski's already been optioned a few times. So if they looked at both those guys needing multiple days of rest and they needed an arm today, they might have just figured it's better to option Sheehan. And then if they want to just bring him right back up for his next time in the rotation, they'll just have to phantom injured list somebody. That's not something they can acknowledge publicly, but I think it's possible here. And even if they do just really plan on sending him back down for 15 days and maybe make 2 more starts to stretch out a little bit, I would envision it more as a continuation of the rehab assignment than Emmet Sheehan being a minor leaguer.
Totally. And Landon Knack is a guy that they could call back up in the next 5 days or so. His time's up. So I think just the sequencing of it sucks because Sheehan is good enough for sure to belong at this level. But that's how things played out. We have some more quotes post game here. So some more good ones from Fernando Tatis and then from Mike Shildt as well. Tatis did say he did not think it was intentional, but said, quote, clean it up, which totally fair, like totally fair response by Fernando Tatis. Kudos to him. Not a guy that I normally say positive things about, but him being the adult in the room is the ironic thing here. Mike Shildt. This is good, folks. Buckle up. The personal attack that is just sitting right beneath the surface on here is fantastic. He says, I'd like to think not, but I can't say. Only a couple people know that. whether it was or it wasn't, enough is enough. We've got a guy that's getting x-rays right now, and that's one of the best players in the game and, of course, on our team, and this guy's taking shots. And before this series, I can back this up with complete evidence because track records speak for themselves. Teams I manage don't get into altercations like this because teams I manage don't throw at people. But also, teams I manage don't take anything. And after a while, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it on behalf of Tati, and I'm not going to take it on behalf of our team, intentional or unintentional. It's really that simple. That's how this game is played. If you want to call that old school, we'll play old school baseball. I love that he says teams I manage don't throw at people, which tells me, A, Dave Roberts' teams, the teams that Dave Roberts manages are different than mine, first of all. And second of all, your loser team threw the two most intentional beanballs of the entire series. So the irony just reeks to me.
Yeah, it tracks with everything we've seen, the reactions that we've seen. I'm not surprised by anything he said there. And it is, like you said, it's firing subtle shots at Dave Roberts that do not seem to land at all, because any of us who know Dave Roberts and the way that he manages and the way the Dodgers approach things as an organization, they are the team that it seems Mike Shildt thinks that his teams are. Of the Dodgers don't let themselves get distracted with things like this. They talk about it openly in division matchups against teams like the Padres and Giants. They go in regular series. They don't let the fact that it's a division rival affect them at all. So if there's a team that normally doesn't get caught up in stuff like this and doesn't let distractions happen, it's the Dodgers, not your team.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shildt, again, he's telling on himself. So there you go. Mike Shildt, everybody. Sean wants to know, as beloved as Edman is because of the postseason, do you think he has been underwhelming this year so far? We're just getting right into it. Sean, we appreciate the super chats. Thanks anyways, by the way, to the 3,300 people, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We got a large show on here. So thank you, everybody, for hopping in. If you're new, especially on YouTube, please subscribe. Ring the notification bell. We're on here 4 nights a week. Doing post-game shows. We're marching towards 100,000 subscribers. When we get there, we're going to have a huge giveaway. So help us get there. But Sean's question, Tommy Edman, underwhelming. I got crap for having a bold prediction. Not saying that he was going to be bad, but saying that he was going to be fine offensively. So what do you make of what we've seen from him in 2025, Bruce?
He's been the bottom of the order bat and good glove that they signed him to be. I think that it's a good point to speak to, that Tommy Edman hit so well in the postseason that it certainly makes sense to create some unrealistic expectations. Edman's never been a slugger. And actually, I think that the on base has been very low, and that part I think needs to and will improve. But the way Tommy Edman has hit for power this year makes any concern that I could have about him just go out the window, because I think that part's encouraging. If there's one thing I wanted to see him do better this year than the rest of his career, is to lift the ball, and that's exactly what he's done. So I have faith that on base will get back above 300 at some point, or at least close to it. And then if he continues slugging in the 450 range, then that's plenty that you could ask for from your gold glover at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to our guy, Matthew Moreno, by the way, who is at Dodger Stadium and getting us these quotes for our show in real time. So shout out to Matt. I'm starting to see some of them filter through on social media right now. And I'm like, our guy, Matt, had them to us and to you all before they popped up on social media. So shout out to Matt and the hard work he's doing at Dodger Blue. Blake, DodgerBlue.com, all the folks there. It's a great team that we've got here. We have got here, Jedi Engineer. I wonder how Shildt would handle playing against Pedro Martinez. I did call Mike Shildt Don Zimmer Jr. at one point, because I was envisioning Don Zimmer chasing after Pedro Martinez. I do think the Dave Roberts, Mike Shildt fiasco might have gone a similar way, if I had to guess.
Yeah, this is part of what I think we've spoken to, that even though this stuff still is existing, it is different than it used to be. It's not as common as it used to be, and this kind of stuff just doesn't happen as often as it used to, but it still can, and this culture will still happen. It really takes a lot to boil over to the point that we got to tonight, but that's where it took us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see some other stuff that we've got. One thing to keep an eye on, by the way, Max Muncy, he looked like he may have tweaked his hip at some point running down the line in the seventh inning. Did he stay in the game, or was that who Kike Hernandez came in for?
I know Kike was playing first base.
Okay, so then it must have been for Freddie Freeman. So Max must have stayed in?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Max stayed in the game. So,
yeah.
Okay, maybe nothing to worry about there. Okay, one thing we want to do, we're going to get to questions here in a second. So if you've got a question, all caps questions, throw that in the chat. If you don't know Bruce or aren't familiar with this stuff, one thing that we love talking about Bruce about is the farm system. He's a guy who tracks Dodgers prospects, ranks them, keeps tabs on all these guys. And so we like to dedicate a few minutes on our Thursday night show to talking about some guys. I laughed today because I feel like I have a decent pulse on who some Dodgers prospects are. I think this is maybe the third time, fourth time we've done this, and I'm batting 1,000 on knowing who these guys are and knowing a little bit about them. And he said today, hey, what if we talk about Ryan Brown? And my response was, hey, if that's a real person who plays for the Dodgers, that sounds like a great idea. Now, I've done a little bit of digging. 2023 ninth round pick, drafted a month after having Tommy John. So A, ninth rounder, B, didn't play all of last season, made his debut this year. Talk to me for a couple minutes here, Bruce, about Ryan Brown.
Yeah, so he's had one of the, I think maybe the highest strikeout rate in the system this year. Relief pitcher who's been with Rancho Cucamonga, and it really takes a lot for me to hone in and focus on a relief pitcher in the lower minor leagues. That means that he's doing something great, and he absolutely has. The strikeout rate is north of 40%. It's been around 45, 50%. So that's nearly half the batters he's faced this year that he's struck out, and that's all thanks to a changeup that's at least double plus. It is a ridiculously good changeup. It's the reason the Dodgers drafted him. And this changeup has been an excellent pitch for him for a long time. It tore through batters at Ball State. It's doing the same thing in the pros now. I believe that he's added a little bit of velo coming off of TJ, and the fastball is good enough to let the changeup absolutely play. And it's eaten through California League batters so far. So anytime you look at a guy and you see a strikeout rate that high, 45%, it absolutely stands out. So Ryan Brown, there's a lot of guys in the Dodger system, not only on the starting side that could eventually be relievers or guys that are already relievers. They have a lot of strikeout stuff in the system, but Ryan Brown is propelling himself up the ranks to be one of those top whiff guys.
I love it. I love it. I saw, as I was researching a little bit today to prep for tonight, Vulcan changeup was a phrase used. That's the pitch you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's the Vulcan change that thing dances, and it's a absolutely filthy pitch.
Reliever only, or do we think this is a guy who could get stretched back out to being a starter?
Most likely reliever only. I think that he's got that one pitch that's so much better than everything else. His fastball, like I said, I think could be about average, but he's got the profile of there's not really a reason to stretch him out. He also hasn't thrown a ton of strikes this year either, so that's something to certainly keep an eye on. But I think he's got the relief only outlook that when you think about changeups that are that good, a lot of relievers, you want that one water carrying pitch that they can just basically come in and spam. If it's a great slider, I think a great changeup is one of the best individual great pitches you can have, because the best changeups, they can play against righties and lefties. And that's the kind of changeup this is. So it can get everybody out, and it's an absolutely great pitch.
Yeah. I love it. And I mean, the nice thing is these guys, like if you're a relief only prospect with a pitch like that, I know he's in a high A, I think you said right now.
He's in Rancho single A.
Single A.
Quick
but
track.
I mean, like those types of guys, they don't follow the year by year progression that maybe a starting pitcher does. Like, I'm not saying we're going to see him this year, but a guy with that profile, to me, Bruce, if the pitch is as good as we're talking about here, I mean, by the end of 2026, it doesn't seem crazy that he could be sort of kicking down the door at the very least down in AAA, right?
Yeah, I'd say the thing to watch with him, we know the changeup is great. As he moves up, if he can throw enough strikes and if the fastball doesn't get hit, those are the two things to know that he'll keep moving up, because the changeup's good enough that if he's thrown 3 pitches now, he's got a breaking ball, but if he just can have the fastball be good enough, give it a 50 on the fastball, let the changeup play, and he really only needs those 2 pitches as he moves up, and that'll be good enough to, I think, at least get to the big league. So I don't know if we're talking about a future Eric Gagne here. I saw somebody throw that in the chat with the Vulcan change. That's a good connection, but it's a guy that in the lower minor leagues is just lighting it on fire and is certainly deserving of a little bit of spotlight.
I love it. I love it. By the way, Jack Little, I know we had Alex Friedman on our show. He said he's been the best relief pitcher at AAA. I thought he shared a cool story about basically how he learned how to throw a splitter this offseason, then went to spring training in Kirby Yates. If you're going to learn the splitter from somebody, Kirby Yates might be the best guy to go learn from, and has had a great year. So he obviously wasn't super awesome tonight. Some bad luck, but a fastball that clearly doesn't seem like it's going to cut it at the major league level. Like, is that an unfair small sample size appropriation of Jack Little's talents and abilities?
I'd give him a chance. I don't think Jack Little's going to be like a future door slammer or anything. He's 27 and just made his debut tonight, but he's been in the organization for a while now, since 2019. And I think he deserved a big league chance for sure. And this isn't the only time we'll see him. I think he was the first guy right on the brink to be that new depth reliever that they've been shuttling some guys through, Noah Davis and those kinds. He'll be right in that group now of like on the shuttle between Oklahoma City and LA when they need an arm, but not necessarily a guy that they're going to go to in the highest leverage. But we've seen how it's been this year. Sometimes they just need an arm who might be good enough. And I think he can fit into that group.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There you go. I'm curious to see a guy like that. I was just surprised that they would give up a 40-man roster spot. Like, I know they've probably felt like they needed the help, and I know Little has been good. So my two thoughts were like, man, I'm surprised they're giving him the 40-man spot, but as brutal as this sounds, part of me wonders if he's going to have that 40-man spot for the entire time, or if he's the type of profile that they were like, well, just bring him up. And if it doesn't really pan out, then like, if he's not in our organization in a month, then so be it. Like, that feels harsh for a guy making his major league debut, but that was my initial reaction.
No, I'm with you. I think that is part of why he's been better than Jose Rodriguez, but I think Jose Rodriguez has a little bit more length and can provide some things better out of the bullpen, but you wouldn't want to cut him right away. Little, like he's 27, and he doesn't really have a like future closer in his path. So if I think they could add him right now, feel comfortable with it. They don't, I wouldn't imagine they plan to cut him, but like once some of these guys, Gonsolin's now on the 60 days, Snell and Glass now both are, there's going to be spots that need to be opened. And I don't think that he's a guy that you can't get rid of if that becomes a need.
Yeah, totally fair. Totally fair. All right, let's get to some questions, all caps questions. If you've got anything to throw those in the chat, we got 5 to 10 more minutes. And hey, if you got a fun question, a food question, a non-baseball question, throw those in. We like to end our show on a lighter note. Sign stealing scandal. I know they would never, but Ohtani first, Smith second, Freeman, Pages, Muncy, Betts, Hernandez, Kim, Edman. Your thoughts? This goes back to the Mookie Betts conversation, and he is obviously not playing like the Mookie Betts that we are accustomed to. There's a large debate, I think, happening among Dodgers fans right now, which is a fair one, of is this who Mookie Betts is? We've got a long sample size dating back to the middle of last year in which he has been a good but not great offensive player. There's an argument to be made that losing 20 pounds at the beginning of the season might have set him back a little bit. I would point out that he had an incredible postseason run last year, right in the middle of that sample size everyone likes talking about, where he was a 950 OPS player in the games that mattered most against the best pitching that the league had to offer. And so I think this question, in part, Bruce, comes down to the Mookie Betts conversation. So where are you at on Mookie Betts, the offensive player, and should the Dodgers start getting creative with their lineup?
I don't think they're going to touch it, and I don't think they should touch it. I think Mookie, looking at his numbers without including some of the absolutely necessary context, won't get you very far, because first, Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. I don't need to see numbers, nor does Dave Roberts, nor does anybody else. The respect that Mookie Betts has as a hitter far outweighs what his numbers show this year, and I think that speaks to the faith that I have he'll get back to producing that way. And then last year, before he got hit in the hand and had the broken hand, he was right on track to compete for the MVP. Like I think that was last June when he got hit by the guy in the Royals, and he was playing great. I thought that he had a real chance to try and compete with Shohei for the MVP, and that derailed it. It's not uncommon at all when guys come back from a broken hand mid-season like that to have the power zapped a bit, and that's what happened. He didn't quite have the same kind of power by the end of last year, but again, I think that was to be expected, or at least to be understood. And then I think the same thing this year. And at the beginning of spring training, he was setting career highs in bat speed and looked great. I think that he was primed for a big comeback with the power. And then the virus happened, and he hasn't recovered from that. You cannot recover from something like that in this short of a time, gain all that weight back mid-season. That's very, very hard to do. I think you have to acknowledge he is a little bit older now. It's not impossible by any stretch that he is just this kind of offensive player now that's going to hover around 800 OPS, but I'm not willing to throw in the towel yet. And I think that at the least, you've got Mookie Betts, the professional hitter that puts the fear into everybody else. And I'm not saying to build lineups based off of your gut feeling or the fear or any of that. You have to be smart about it. But I think that on any given day, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman is the way the Dodgers want to line up. It's 3 Hall of Famers at the top. And I think that leaving the past behind, you can have confidence those 3 guys will perform like Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I'm with you. Saying Mookie Betts is going, like, I think this is the problem with any like social media debate about Mookie Betts is there's never nuance, right? It's like, well, he was an MVP candidate and now he sucks. And you're not allowed to say anything in between those two. Like, he either sucks. I remember talking about Blake, and Blake, you know, the joke that sort of prompted this whole thing was he compared him to Miguel Rojas of 2024, which Miguel Rojas was better than everybody expected in 2024. But I think when you make that comparison, it's pretty obvious the point you're trying to make here. And I asked Blake, I'm like, okay, so you don't think he's a top 15 hitter anymore? Like, do you think he's a top 25 to 30? And Blake said, yes. Like, I think so I'm like, okay, then we're in agreement. Like, if we're talking about a guy who is going from being an MVP candidate to still being an all-star level player, then fine. Like, I'm totally there. But now the conversation has shifted to like, well, he's a 115 weighted runs created plus, which is like, well, now you're talking about a guy who's like the 50th best hitter or the 60th best hitter in Major League Baseball. And you might be right. Like, you might be right. I might be wrong. Everybody knows I'm optimistic. I hold on too long, yada, yada, yada. I'm just not there yet. Like, I don't think he's like a 150, 40 home run guy, obviously. But I think the point you make, it's so hard to put on, to gain muscle back after you've lost it, first of all. And these guys lose weight during the course of major league seasons because it is such a grind, and the amount of time that it takes to even get the calories in their bodies is a challenge. So I think all those things offer explanatory power to me with Mookie Betts. So the question then, Bruce, to get to what sign stealing scandal is presenting here is, even with that, even if Mookie Betts is not MVP level Mookie Betts, would you move a guy like Will Smith, who's got an on-base percentage that starts with a 4, into the number 2 spot, get some more guys on base at the top of this lineup, and then move Pages ahead of Teoscar Hernandez, and then sort of shift? I don't think anybody has an issue with Ohtani at 1 or sort of Kim and Edman at 8 and 9. The question is, what do you do with 2 through 7?
It's difficult, right? Because I think this is the kind of thing that's hard for us to diagnose from the outside. If the only way that Mookie or Freddie would be moved out of the top 4, or even for Mookie moved out of the 2, is if they are open with the Dodger dugout about saying they don't feel the same. If Mookie were to say, like, look, I don't think I'm getting this bat speed back this year, and Will Smith is the best catcher in the National League, like, let's move him up a spot. But I just don't see that as likely to happen. And I don't even think that frankly, I don't think it's something being considered. It sort of feels like a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing of like the Dodgers. We just talked about this 29 game impossible stretch, and they were well above 500 during it. And that's with Mookie Betts batting second, putting up numbers that are not Mookie Betts numbers. I would imagine I'm in this group. If you went through the Dodger dugout and the Dodger front office, everybody, if you asked around, you would have way more people tell you Mookie Betts will be above an 800 OPS the rest of the year than people who think he'll be below. It takes adjusting, not only, even if he doesn't gain the weight back and all gets the bat speed back this year, it takes adjusting to play with a new body too. I think he's been going through that. And like I said, he's Mookie Betts. He's going to put up professional at bats. He's going to do the things. And there's really no pressing need to move him out of the 2. We have seen them experiment with Freddie batting 4th more often than I thought was possible. And that has started to be a thing that appears to be okay for them. But at least there you can say you're breaking up the Ohtani, Freeman, 2 lefties in the top 3. I still think that the best lineup against a right-handed pitcher is going to be Ohtani 1, Mookie 2, Freeman 3. And I think that stays put. Yeah,
I'm with you. And I mean, look, the other thing with Mookie is, like, I feel like in the last 3 or 4 days, he's had 2 home run balls down the left field line that were like maybe a total of 10 feet foul. And if those 2 balls are fair, I don't think we're having this conversation. Now it's right down the line, and the people that say lost his power, fair, all of that is fair. But I think it's an interesting conversation. And ultimately I land on, we're not talking about what is like the optimized lineup right now. What's realistic is that Mookie Betts is going to stay at the 2 hole. They're going to give him opportunities to sort of snap out of this. And I think he will eventually. Yeah. Okay. Some more questions here. Scooter says, I feel like we aren't raving enough that we managed to get through a 29-game gauntlet over 500 teams, again, 17 and 12 over that stretch. We get to be chill while waiting for Glasnow Snell to come back. Wow. I agree with all of this.
Yep. It's incredible. And we just spent a little bit on this, but like I said before, it speaks to the Dodgers' ability to just go out and win baseball games. And no matter what gets thrown at them, no matter what injuries happen, no matter who in the lineup might be struggling at any given point, they just go out and win games. And part of that calculus, we spent a lot of last week talking about having punt games in there sometimes, having not being afraid to throw in the towel in particular games when you know it'll help you tomorrow. It's all those kind of things that even when the Dodgers lose on an individual basis, they win the marathon, and they are better than any other team in baseball at winning that marathon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mentioned the subscription earlier, Fozzie. I've been subbed to your YouTube channel, bro. Go Dodgers. Thank you again. Heading towards 100,000 subscribers. Please, if you get a chance, subscribe and ring the notification bell. Hallelujah. I thought this was an interesting question. Is it safe to say the Padres hurt any relationship they had with Japanese players? I hadn't thought of this, but I imagine if you're a Japanese fan watching this game, you're not loving seeing Shohei Ohtani take 100 miles up towards the head and back, and the reaction from the Dodgers and that kind of thing. I don't think this actually is going to have an impact, but I just thought it was an interesting thought.
It certainly is an interesting thought. I tend to agree that I wouldn't imagine players would make individual decisions on what they think is best for themselves based on something like this, but it certainly doesn't make the Padres look like a glowing dugout of individuals. So it's the fact that they threw up high. That's the part that anybody who is in baseball would take offense to. And I think that certainly transcends worldwide, especially over in Japan where Ohtani is as popular as he is.
Yeah. Let's do a couple more. Dr. J said, are the clustered division games elevating tensions too much? Do you think this fact that the Dodgers and Padres played 7 games in 10 days is just sort of adding to this?
Yeah, I that's an interesting, I hadn't completely thought of that, but I think I do agree, especially with the new schedule. Both teams know they're not going to play each other as much throughout the season. And then all of a sudden, when you're not playing as much and then they're clustered together like this, it feels like that you're completely no contact. And then all of a sudden it's like, what was it? 7 games and out of 10 or something like that against the Padres. And that certainly wouldn't help the kind of tensions. And at least they're going to have a break now until August, but then it's going to be the same thing of back-to-back series practically. So it's interesting to think about the effect that would have. And I hadn't thought about it before this, but I think that it makes sense to say that it elevates tensions just because of the dynamic of not playing at all. And then all of a sudden having to see each other a ton.
Yeah. Moderator, you guys would not believe some of the takes the Padres quote media has. We are crying. So good stuff there. Cannot wait for that kind of thing. Okay. Let's see. I just got yeah, it's the best is like some of these people saying that Dave Roberts, basically there's this line of thinking that Dave Roberts pulled Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Will Smith because he knew he was going to hit Fernando Tatis in the top of the 9th, and that's why. And like the first response was, but they left Shohei Ohtani in. like Ohtani was the guy they left in. It's like, hey, he pulled Mookie. That was the problem. And it's like, and Ohtani, who bats before all of those players, is the one that got left in. It's just fantastic.
Illogical.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's fantastic. And then the rookie pitcher, it was the rookie pitcher who did it because the Dodgers don't care if Jack Little gets suspended. That was the other piece of this. So that's the same rookie pitcher, by the way, who came into the game in what, 3-0, I believe, when he came into the game. So they were thinking way ahead there. It's fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Okay, let's see. I'm just trying to see if we have any more questions. I know we got one food one, which is a good one, but yeah. Rod wants to know, should Doc have stuck up for Pages like he did for Ohtani? I think Pages admitted that he handled things poorly in the first place. So I don't think that Dave hung him out to dry or anything like that. But I don't know. I think Pages they handled the Pages situation the way they should have.
I could say maybe that's something that sort of sets apart the Dodger dugout and the Padre dugout. The Dodgers had nuance with that situation. And I think that, like you said, they didn't hang Pages out to dry, but none of the Dodger guys were ready to jump the fence either, because they knew, all right, Pages, you're a young guy, you might be exaggerating this a bit, and he'll figure it out after the game, and he'll realize that. So if you flipped the scenarios, and if it was a young guy on the Padres who maybe reacted that way, I don't know if the Padre dugout would have stayed composed like the Dodgers did. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Lin, by the way, of The Athletic, x-rays on Fernando Tatis's right wrist were negative. Tatis said he's feeling, quote, not good, and the results were, quote, kind of inconclusive. Scheduled for a CT scan and an MRI tomorrow. So, again, as Dave Roberts said, nobody is rooting for that. Nobody is happy to hear that Fernando Tatis might be missing some games. So, it's a bummer there. Okay, one food question, fun question to get us out of here. Little Sane wants to know, fried pickles or fried okra? Do you have thoughts here, Bruce?
I don't think that I've ever had fried okra. I don't know if that's
I don't think that's a crazy take.
Okay.
Do you like fried pickles?
Yeah, they're solid. I like different variations of pickles and throw some beer batter on there, and I'll enjoy it. It's not something that I'm like going out of my way to find, but I like it.
Yeah, fried pickles to me, elite. Like, again, if I see fried okra on a menu, I'm not like, I need to order that. Fried pickles, I'm very interested in at all times. So, yeah, a good fried pickle, not some of this crappy stuff. Solid. So there you go. Okra is gnarly and it's slimy, NS said. So there you go. That does not make me want it anymore. I'm sure there's good fried okra somewhere out there, but it is what it is. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. Almost 3,500 people in here. One of our bigger shows. So thank you, everybody. Crazy night at Dodger Stadium. Crazy week at Dodger Stadium. 4 incredible games with the Padres. Fortunately, they come out on top in 3 of the 4 and almost pull off a miraculous comeback tonight, if not for a couple bad calls and a couple poorly timed substitutions. Who knows? This might have been a little bit different. That is Bruce Kuntz. I am Jeff Spiegel. As always, stay right here. Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. We will have all the post-game content. Dave Roberts' press conference. I believe Mookie Betts spoke to the media as well. That will be right here on our YouTube page. So check that out. Check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest news and updates, as well as a game recap. You can find Bruce at bnicholas7 on social media. You can find me at Jeff Spiegel as well. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night. Dodgers lose, but guess what? Go Dodgers, and yes, still champs.